Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. The fork in my hand was halfway to my mouth when Brenda's voice cut through the dinner conversation like a knife through silk. Well, everyone, I suppose we should address the elephant in the room, she said, her tone bright and falsely gentle. Janelle lost the baby 2 weeks ago. The piece of roasted chicken slid off my fork and landed on the china plate with a soft clink that somehow sounded thunderously loud in the sudden silence. 15 faces turned toward me at once. 15 pairs of eyes, some confused, some pitying, all intrusive. Heat rushed to my face, then drained away so quickly that I felt dizzy. I had not told anyone yet. I had not even told my own sister. The miscarriage had happened 12 days ago, and I was still bleeding, still cramping, still waking up in the middle of the night and reaching automatically for a belly that would never grow. The doctor had told me it was common for a first pregnancy. My body had not known what it was doing. These things happen, she had said, as if that made any of it hurt less. Under the table, Calvin's hand found mine. His palm was damp, or maybe it was mine. "Mom," he said tightly, "that was not your news to share." Brenda dabbed delicately at her mouth with a linen napkin, the picture of elegance in her navy dress and single strand of pearls. "Oh, I thought everyone knew," she replied. "Janelle has been so distant lately. I assumed she told people. I had been distant because getting out of bed felt like lifting a car. Because every time I went to the bathroom I was reminded, in stark red, of what my body had lost. Because Calvin had gone back to work after one day, telling me he needed the distraction, leaving me alone in our Chicago apartment with my grief and my endless internet searches wondering whether the glass of wine I had drunk before I knew I was pregnant had somehow killed our baby. No one knew," I said quietly. My voice sounded like it was coming from the far end of a tunnel, thin and unfamiliar. I was not ready to talk about it. "Oh, honey, I am so sorry," Aunt Denise said gently from across the table, reaching her hand toward mine as far as the centerpiece would allow. "If you need anything." "She will be fine," Brenda interrupted, flicking her hand as if waving away a fly. "Women have miscarriages all the time. She is young. There will be other babies. No need to make it into a big production." Something inside me gave way. It was not a dramatic crack. It was a quiet snap, like a thin thread being cut with very sharp scissors. I had been raised to be polite, to keep family business behind closed doors, to endure thoughtless comments with a smile. I had done that for 5 years with this family. But Brenda had just thrown my most private pain onto the dinner table, like it was a conversation starter. I had known about Brenda's affair for 6 months. I had found the receipts in the back of Calvin's car when he asked me to grab his gym bag. Hotel rooms charged to her credit card on Thursday nights. Dinners for 2 at restaurants across town. I had seen the messages too, the ones she had carelessly left open on her phone when she came over to our apartment to check on me. Messages to a man named Richard, light and flirtatious and unmistakably intimate. I had kept quiet because Calvin adored his mother. Because Brenda was the matriarch everyone deferred to, the woman whose approval seemed to be the currency of the entire Brooks family. Because I had been taught not to make waves. But now, staring at her across the long dining table in Leon and Brenda's big suburban house outside Chicago, with my grief laid bare without my consent, I heard my own voice before I even knew I was going to speak. "Do you know what else women do all the time, Brenda?" I said, surprised at how steady my voice sounded. "They have affairs." The silence that followed was a different kind of silence, heavier, charged. Leon set his wineglass down very carefully. Reggie stared at me, eyes wide. Calvin's fork froze halfway to his mouth. Cousins and aunts looked between Brenda and me like they were watching a slow-motion car crash. "Excuse me?" Leon said, his voice calm but edged with something sharp. "I am sorry to bring this up at dinner," I continued, and I realized with a small shock that I meant it. Not for Brenda's sake, but for Leon's, and for the cousins who had just wanted a nice family meal. But since we are apparently sharing private information tonight, everyone should know that Brenda has been having an affair with a man named Richard for at least the past 2 years. Those Thursday book clubs are actually Thursday hotel visits. Brenda's face went pale, then flushed a deep red. "How dare you?" she hissed. "I dare because you just announced my miscarriage to 15 people without my permission," I said. My voice felt stronger with each word. "You took the most painful thing I have ever experienced and turned it into dinner conversation. So now your secret is dinner conversation too. This is completely different," Brenda sputtered. That was a medical situation. This is. You are right, I said. It is different. My miscarriage was something that happened to me, something I could not control. Your affair is a choice you have been making every week. A choice to betray your husband. Leon stood up slowly. Usually he was jovial, the kind of father-in-law who told corny jokes and always had a mint in his pocket. Now he looked 10 years older than he had 5 minutes earlier. Brenda, he said quietly, is this true? Brenda opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Leon, let me explain, she said, glancing around the table as if someone might jump in and rescue her. Aunt Denise was staring down at her plate. Reggie's eyes were fixed on the tablecloth. No one met Brenda's gaze. Finally, she looked at me with so much hatred that I felt it like a physical shove. Yes, she snapped. Yes, it is true. And you, she pointed a trembling finger at me, you have just destroyed this family. No, I replied, standing up even though my legs were shaking. You destroyed your marriage. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences. Calvin pushed his chair back so suddenly that it scraped loudly against the hardwood floor. He came to his feet as if someone had pulled a string. Janelle, what are you doing? He demanded. What the hell? I turned to him. He was not looking at me with concern or sympathy. He was looking at me like I was the problem, like I had committed some unspeakable crime. Your mother just announced my miscarriage like it was gossip, I said. She took the most painful thing that has ever happened to me and used it to fill a quiet moment at dinner. And you are angry at me. She should not have done that, Calvin said, his jaw tight. But you did not have to. He gestured helplessly between his parents. You did not have to do this. Did not have to what? I asked. Tell the truth? Stand up for myself. You could have talked to me first, he insisted. We could have handled this privately. I laughed once, humorless and sharp. Like we handled my miscarriage privately? I asked. When you went back to work the next day and left me alone in our apartment. When I cried in our bedroom for nearly 2 weeks, and you never once asked how I was really doing. That is not fair, he said. None of this is fair, Calvin, I replied. I grabbed my purse off the back of my chair. I am going to my sister's place. Do not follow me. Janelle, wait, he said. But I was already walking toward the foyer, past Brenda's theatrical sobbing, past Leon's stunned silence, past cousins whose eyes burned with a mixture of curiosity and discomfort. I stepped out into the cool October air, the Brooks manicured lawn glowing under the porch lights like a picture in a real estate brochure. A picture of a perfect family, now cracked straight down the middle. I sat in my car with my hands shaking so hard it took 3 tries to get the key into the ignition. For a moment, I just stared at the windshield. The question was not what had I done, I realized. The real question was why I had waited this long to do it. Aisha opened the door of her apartment in Hyde Park the second I knocked, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside without a word. She wrapped a soft throw blanket around my shoulders, settled me on her green velvet couch, and handed me a mug of chamomile tea that she must have started brewing as soon as I texted. I am on my way. Emergency. Tell me everything, Aisha said gently. Her voice had always been my anchor. She was 3 years younger than I was, with the same brown skin and dark eyes, but none of my tendency to smooth things over. So I told her. The miscarriage. Brenda's announcement. The way Calvin had looked at me across the table. The words I had thrown back at Brenda like a mirror she could not avoid. As I spoke, my voice broke, steadied, broke again. By the time I reached the part where I walked out of the house, my throat ached. Aisha's eyes grew sharp. I am glad you told everyone, she said without hesitation. She needed to be exposed. She deserved it. I ruined their family dinner, I said. She ruined your privacy first, Aisha replied. She turned your pain into small talk. That is not a mistake. That is cruelty disguised as concern. Why did I not tell you about the baby sooner? I whispered. About losing it? Because saying it out loud makes it real, Aisha said softly. Because you were trying to hold yourself together with both hands. But you do not have to do that here. The tears I had been holding back finally came, hot and relentless. Aisha moved closer and wrapped her arms around me, rubbing slow circles on my back the way our mother used to do when we were children and woke up from bad dreams. We stayed like that for a long time. My phone buzzed on the coffee table, then again, then started ringing. I stared at the screen. It is Calvin, I said. You do not have to answer, Aisha reminded me. Not tonight. Not ever if you do not want to. I knew she was right, but I needed to hear what he would say. I swiped to answer. Hello. Where are you? Calvin demanded. His voice sounded strained, like a guitar string pulled too tight. We need to talk about what you did. I am safe, I said. That is all you need to know right now. My parents just left. My mother is hysterical. My father will not speak to her. Reggie is furious with you. This whole thing is a disaster. A disaster, I repeated slowly. I walked to Aisha's window, looking down at the small park below where children usually played during the day. Your mother announced my miscarriage without my permission. She took something sacred and made it entertainment. And you think I am the disaster? I think you could have handled it differently, he said. You humiliated her. She humiliated me first, I replied. That is not how marriage works, Janelle, he insisted. You do not keep score. You do not get revenge. You talk things through like adults. Something in me hardened at his tone. When was the last time we talked things through? I asked quietly. When I told you I was pregnant and you said, okay, cool, and went back to watching the game. When I miscarried and you went to work the next day. He went silent. You need to come home, Calvin said finally. We can fix this if you just come home and stop making it bigger than it is. Fix what exactly? I asked. Your mother's affair? Your father's broken heart? Or our marriage that has been breaking for a lot longer than tonight? Do not do this, he said. You are upset about the baby. I understand that, but you are not thinking clearly. Actually, I said, watching a stray cat trot across the empty park, tail high, utterly unconcerned with the human chaos in the buildings around it. I am thinking more clearly than I have in months. I am staying at Aisha's tonight. Tomorrow I will come get some of my things. Your things? Calvin repeated, his voice rising. What does that mean? It means I need space to figure out what I want, I said. What do you want? He snapped. You are my wife. You do not get to just leave because you are mad. Watch me, I replied, and hung up before he could say another word. My hands were shaking again, but this time it was not fear. It was adrenaline. It was the strange, dizzying sensation of finally standing up for myself. You can stay here as long as you need to, Aisha said, coming to stand beside me at the window. The couch pulls out. It is lumpy, but it is yours. Thank you, I said. Are you really okay with me leaving him? Are you okay staying with him? She asked. The answer settled over me with surprising clarity. No, I said. I am not. I turned my phone off before bed. In the morning, I turned it back on and immediately regretted it. 43 text messages. 15 missed calls. 2 voicemails. Most were from Calvin, alternating between rage and pleading. A few were from family members, all of them blaming me. One was from my best friend from college, Tamara. Aisha told me what happened. I am here if you need me. I love you. Thank you, I texted back. I am okay. Just trying to figure things out. Do you want company when you go get your things? She replied almost instantly. Calvin should not be alone with you right now. He is too emotional. She was right. Please, I texted back. Can you meet me at the apartment at noon? The downtown apartment Calvin and I shared had once felt like the start of a beautiful future. Big windows. A modern kitchen. The kind of place you took photos of for social media. Walking into it now with Tamara by my side, it just looked like a place I used to live. Calvin was at work, which made everything easier. What do you need? Tamara asked, already rolling up her sleeves. She was tall, her hair in an intricate braided updo, her maroon physical therapist scrubs somehow looking like a fashion choice instead of a uniform. Clothes, I said. My laptop. Important documents. Anything that feels like it is really mine. We moved through the bedroom quietly, pulling clothes from the closet and folding them into suitcases. I was halfway through folding a red sweater when I noticed Calvin's tablet on his nightstand. He usually kept it at the office. I picked it up. The screen lit instantly, no password. Calvin had always been careless about things like that, confident that privacy was a given. A good wife, I thought, would put the tablet down and walk away. But somewhere between Brenda's dining room and Aisha's couch, I had stopped trying to be a good wife. The Messages app opened with a touch. I scrolled, glancing over threads with coworkers and Reggie, until one name caught my attention. Clarissa, with a small heart emoji beside it. The message history went back more than a year. At first it was light, harmless enough. Jokes about meetings, complaints about traffic. Then gradually the tone shifted. Compliments about her dress. Late-night messages. Then photos. Then explicit plans to meet. I wish I could stay all night, Clarissa had typed 2 months earlier. But we both know that is too risky. Soon, Calvin had replied. Once I figure out the best way to tell Janelle, we can stop sneaking around. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed, my breath knocked out of me. The room seemed to tilt. You okay? Tamara said, appearing in the doorway. You look like you have seen a ghost. He is having an affair, I said. My voice sounded flat, almost calm. Calvin is having an affair. It has been going on for over a year. Tamara crossed the room in 3 strides and sat beside me. I handed her the tablet. Her expression darkened with every message she scrolled through. You have got to be kidding me, she muttered. This whole time, the timeline rolled across my mind like a film I never agreed to watch. Messages from the week I told him I was pregnant. Complicated situation at home. Need to see you. Messages from the day of the miscarriage. Cannot meet tonight. Family emergency. Messages from the very next day. Tomorrow. I really need you right now. I was the family emergency, I whispered. And she was his comfort. I am going to kill him, Tamara said, her voice low and deadly calm. No weapons, I said automatically, trying to laugh. It came out as a shaky exhale. We do not want this story to end with anyone in prison. Then I will use my words, Tamara said. Very aggressively. I kept scrolling. There were photos of them at restaurants, at a park, at what looked like someone's apartment. Clarissa was pretty in a generic sort of way. Straight hair, easy smile, the kind of woman who looked like she always returned her shopping cart to the right place. The most recent messages were from the day of the family dinner. Can I see you tonight? Calvin had written. I thought you said you were going to tell her soon, Clarissa had replied. I do not want to be the other woman forever. I know, he had typed back. I will. After the family dinner tonight, I will figure out the right time. There were no messages after that. I wondered if he had tried to find me after dinner, or if he had gone to Clarissa instead and complained about how unreasonable I was. Screenshot all of this, Tamara said. Email it to yourself. You need evidence for the divorce. The divorce, I repeated. The word felt huge, final, but also right. Do you still want to work things out with him after seeing this? Tamara asked bluntly. I stared at the tablet. No, I said. I do not. We spent the next hour packing. I took my important documents, birth certificate, social security card, the title to my car, from the desk drawer. I packed my favorite books and the framed photo of Aisha and me from last Christmas. I left the wedding photos on the wall. Let Calvin look at them and remember what he had risked for hotel rooms and secret lunches. We were loading the last box into Tamara's car when my phone rang. Calvin, do not answer, Tamara warned. I answered. Hello. Are you at the apartment? Calvin asked. I said. I came to get my things. Your things, he said. What are you talking about? You are coming back, right? We can work through this. How long have you been sleeping with Clarissa? I asked. The silence on the other end of the line was confirmation enough. How did you? He began. You left your tablet on the nightstand, I said. You probably should have put a password on it if you were going to fill it with proof of cheating. Janelle, let me explain, he said quickly. Explain what? I asked. That you have been lying to me for over a year? That while I was trying to get pregnant, you were sneaking off to hotel rooms? That while I was losing our baby, you were messaging another woman? It is not like that, he said. Clarissa does not mean anything. It got complicated. I am not complicated, I said. I am your wife. Or I was. You will be hearing from my attorney. Wait, he said, his voice rising. Do not do this. Let us talk in person. You are overreacting. I have a year's worth of messages, Calvin, I said. This is not overreacting. This is responding appropriately. My mother was right about you, he snapped suddenly, his tone twisting. You are selfish. Everything is always about your feelings. Goodbye, Calvin, I said and hung up. Tamara closed the trunk and turned to me. You okay? No, I said honestly. But I will be. Tamara put her hand on my shoulder. We are going straight to find you the best divorce attorney in Chicago, she said. We are not letting this man walk away from this like nothing happened. That was how I ended up sitting in the waiting room of Natasha Robinson's office in the financial district, clutching a folder of printed screenshots. The walls were lined with abstract art and degrees in darkwood frames. My name was called, and I was shown into a sleek office with floor-to-ceiling windows. Natasha was in her 50s with a stylish silver bob and eyes that missed nothing. Her green suit probably cost more than my car payment. She shook my hand firmly. Tell me everything, she said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. So I did. The marriage. The miscarriage. The dinner at Brenda and Leon's. The affair. The tablet. The way Calvin had tried to convince me I was overreacting. Natasha listened without interrupting, her pen moving steadily across a yellow legal pad. First, she said when I finished, I am sorry for your loss. The miscarriage, I mean. You deserved better support than you got. Thank you, I said quietly. Second, she continued, your husband is incredibly foolish. Not only did he cheat, he documented it extensively on a device he left lying around. From a legal standpoint, that makes my job much easier. Really? I asked. Really, she said. You live in Illinois, which uses an equitable distribution system. We do not have to prove fault to get a divorce, but proof of infidelity and financial misconduct can absolutely influence how the assets are divided, especially if he spent marital funds on the affair. She asked me how long we had been married. 5 years. What assets we had. A rented apartment. A joint checking and savings account with about $30,000, mostly meant for a down payment on a house. 2 separate retirement accounts, one each. 2 cars, one in my name, one in his. Who handles the finances? She asked. Calvin does mostly, I admitted. I deposit money into the joint account every month, but he pays the bills. Natasha's eyes sharpened. So you do not regularly review statements? I can log in if I want to, I said. But I do not usually. He always said he would take care of it. Let me guess, she said dryly. He makes more than you. About $20,000 more a year, I said. And he likes to remind you of that, she added. I thought of all the comments Calvin had made over the years about paying for dinners or vacations. The way he had acted like the savings account was his money that he was generously allowing me access to. Yes, I said. Classic financial control, Natasha said. Here is what we are going to do. First, you're going to give me access to all your joint accounts so I can review 2 years of transactions. Second, you're going to open your own account at a separate bank and move half of the joint savings into it. That is your money. You have every right to protect it. Can I really just move it? I asked. Is that legal? It is joint money, she replied. You are entitled to half. If you do not secure it now, it has a mysterious way of disappearing during contentious divorces. She slid a retainer agreement across the desk. My rate is $300 an hour, she said. I require a $5,000 retainer to get started. Is that manageable? My stomach dropped. I had about $800 in my personal account. Natasha must have seen my expression. Her tone softened. I work with payment plans, she said. And if we can prove he spent marital funds on the affair or has been hiding assets, we can ask the court to order him to pay your attorney fees. How? I asked. Those hotel rooms, dinners, any gifts, if he used joint money, that is called dissipation of marital assets, she explained. Courts do not like that. They can compensate you by giving you a larger share of what is left and ordering him to pay your legal costs. She leaned forward. What do you want out of this, Janelle? I want out, I said, surprising myself with how quickly the words came. That is all. I just want to be free of him and his family. That is a good starting point, Natasha said. But we also need to think about setting you up to rebuild your life. You will need money for rent, furniture, therapy if you choose it, and all the little things people forget about when they leave a household. This is not about revenge. It is about making sure you are not punished financially for his choices. I looked down at the retainer agreement. I thought about Aisha's lumpy pull-out couch. About starting over from nothing. Okay, I said. What do you recommend? Fight for at least half the savings, if not more, depending on what we find, Natasha said. Push for him to pay your attorney fees, especially if we can show he spent joint money on the affair. Make it very clear you are not interested in reconciliation counseling. You want a clean break. My hand shook a little as I signed the retainer, but my signature was steady enough. Natasha smiled. You have already done the hardest part, she said. You left. The rest is logistics. That afternoon I went to the bank and opened an account in my name only. I transferred $15,000 from our joint savings into it. My hands trembled as I confirmed the transaction, but when the receipt printed with my new balance, I felt a small surge of something that felt like ownership. On the way back to Aisha's, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. This is Clarissa. We should talk. I stared at the text for a long moment, then blocked the number. Whatever she wanted to say, I did not need to hear it. She had known he was married. She had kept seeing him anyway. Her explanations were not my responsibility. Back at Aisha's apartment, my sister was sitting at the kitchen table with a bottle of wine and 2 glasses already poured. Tamara told me about the attorney, she said. How did it go? Good, I said. Scary, but good. I am really doing this. I am getting divorced. How does that feel? Aisha asked. I thought for a long moment. Relieved, I said. Sad. Angry. Free. All at once. That sounds about right, she said. For what it is worth, I am proud of you. Mom would be proud too. Our mother had been gone 3 years now. She had raised us alone after our father left. She had taught us to be independent, to know our worth, to never let anyone dim us. I realized how far I had drifted from those lessons in my effort to be the wife Calvin and Brenda wanted. I am going to find my own apartment, I said suddenly. I cannot live on your couch forever. I need a place that is just mine. You can stay here as long as you want, Aisha said. But when you are ready, I will help you move every box. 2 weeks later, I signed a lease on a small 1-bedroom on the north side of Chicago. It was an older building with creaky floors and big windows that let in afternoon light. The landlord, Mrs. Carter, was a kind older woman who did not ask many questions when I explained I was separating from my husband. Trash goes out on Tuesdays, she said. Mail usually comes around noon. If anything breaks, just call me. Moving day was chaotic and joyful. Aisha and Tamara helped me haul boxes up the narrow stairs. We painted the bedroom a soft blue and hung cheap white curtains that fluttered when I opened the windows. We ate pizza on the living room floor because I did not have a table yet. To new beginnings, Aisha said, raising a paper cup of cheap champagne. To new beginnings, Tamara and I echoed. At night, after my friends went home, the apartment felt strangely quiet, but not lonely. I lay in my new bed and listened to the hum of the city, the murmur of neighbors through the walls, the faint whoosh of cars on the street below. This was mine. Imperfect, unfinished, but mine. Calvin tried to reach me a few times in the early weeks, but Natasha instructed me not to respond. All communication was to go through the attorneys. It was a relief to hand that weight to someone else. I kept going to work at the marketing firm, throwing myself into timelines and deliverables. My boss, Angela Wright, called me into her office one Tuesday morning. I wanted to talk to you about the Henderson account, she said. The Henderson account was our biggest prospect, a national retail chain preparing to launch a new product line. Did we land it? I asked. Angela smiled. We did. And I want you to be the lead project manager. My breath caught. Really? You have been doing outstanding work, she said. This project is worth about $200,000 to the firm. With the commission structure, you are looking at about a $15,000 bonus if you bring it in on time and under budget. I have no doubt you can. $15,000. Real money. Security. I will not let you down, I said. I know, Angela replied. I texted Aisha and Tamara as soon as I got back to my desk. Got the Henderson account. Huge promotion. They both sent back strings of celebratory emojis and demands that we celebrate that weekend. By then, I had also started going to a Thursday night watercolor class at the community center. I had loved painting before I married Calvin, but somewhere along the way he had convinced me it was childish. You should focus on your career if you have free time, he had said. It had been easier to agree than to argue. My teacher, Ms. Jean, had paint on her hands and laughter in her eyes. You are good, she told me one evening as she studied a landscape I was working on. You have a way with light. Let it breathe more. Do not control every edge. After class, a woman named Tanika approached me. Your paintings are beautiful, she said. Are you going to sell them? Oh no, I said quickly. This is just for fun. There is an art fair next month on the south side, Tanika said. Local artists sell their work. You should apply. I think people would buy your paintings. The idea felt ridiculous and thrilling all at once. Maybe, I said. I will think about it. Natasha called one evening to update me on the case. Calvin's attorney, Martin Hayes, has filed a motion accusing you of hiding assets, she said. Hiding assets? I repeated. Is he talking about the $15,000 I moved into my new account? You told me to do that. I did, and it was absolutely legal, she said. They're trying to frame it as you absconding with joint funds. It is a delay tactic. We will respond with your bank statements and the timing of the transfer. You did it after separation and left half the savings in place. Judges see through this kind of thing. Will it delay the final hearing? I asked. Maybe by a week or two, she said. But if anything, it makes Calvin look petty and controlling. That works in our favor. A few days later, she had even more news. A former coworker of Calvin's emailed you? She asked when I answered the phone. Felicia Grant? Yes, I said. She said Calvin had other affairs. Not just Clarissa. She gave names. Dates. She said you could subpoena company emails. I have already spoken with her, Natasha said. She is willing to testify if necessary. She has credible information about at least 2 other relationships, one with a woman named Crystal in accounting and another with an intern named Nadine last summer. Some of it overlaps with work hours and company events. This establishes a pattern. It strengthens our case significantly. How do you feel about that? She asked. Angry, I said. Relieved. Vindicated. Like I was not crazy to leave. Natasha's voice softened. You were never crazy, she said. But I understand needing the external proof. It will help us push for a fair settlement. In fact, with this much leverage, I suspect Calvin will want to settle before everything becomes part of a public record. She was right. A few weeks later, she called again. He wants to settle, she said. They are proposing an equal split of all assets. He will pay your attorney fees. Clean break. No ongoing support either way. Why the sudden generosity? I asked. Because I told Martin we were prepared to subpoena Calvin's company emails and call Felicia as a witness, she said. Apparently Calvin is up for a promotion, and a public airing of multiple affairs with co-workers is not something he wants on the record. I let out a long breath. Do you think I should accept? Yes, Natasha said firmly. It is fair. You get what you are owed. He pays for the legal mess he created. You walk away. I agreed. The settlement papers arrived a week later. Equal division of the savings. Each of us kept our own car and our own retirement account. Calvin paid my attorney fees in full. No alimony, no ongoing obligations. I signed the pages as Janelle Brooks, one last time, knowing that very soon I would go back to my maiden name, Janelle Harris. Calvin signed on his end. All that was left was a brief court appearance. On the day of the final hearing, I wore a simple blue dress and borrowed a blazer from Tamara. Natasha had told me it mattered to look composed and professional. Judges are human, she had said. They form impressions quickly. Calvin was already in the courtroom when I arrived, sitting beside Martin. He looked better than he had the last time I saw him. His suit was crisp, his hair neatly trimmed. He did not look at me. I did not look at him. All rise, the clerk said as Judge Evelyn Morris entered. She was in her 50s, with sharp eyes and an air of controlled impatience. She reviewed the settlement, asked if we both agreed to the terms, and then looked up. Mr. Brooks, do you agree to this settlement? She asked. Yes, Your Honor, Calvin said. Ms. Brooks, she said, glancing at me. Do you agree as well? Yes, Your Honor, I replied. Then the settlement is approved, she said. The marriage is dissolved. You are both free to go. Just like that. 5 years condensed into less than a minute. Outside the courtroom, Natasha shook my hand. Congratulations, she said. You are officially divorced. Aisha pulled me into a tight hug. How do you feel? She asked. I considered it. Free, I said. Really free. We went out to lunch at a restaurant downtown with white tablecloths and real champagne. Tamara insisted on paying the bill. To Janelle Harris, Aisha said, raising her glass. May this chapter be everything you deserve. To new beginnings, Tamara added. To finding myself again, I said, and we clinked glasses. That evening, back in my apartment, I walked slowly from room to room. The second-hand couch. The thrift store coffee table Aisha and I had painted. The bookshelf lined with my favorite novels and a few framed photos that did not include Calvin. Every item was something I had chosen. No one had criticized my taste. An email from the community art fair popped up on my phone. We are pleased to inform you that your application has been accepted. It read. You will have a booth at this year's Southside Art Walk. I stared at the message and started to laugh. Not the hysterical laugh of someone breaking, but the disbelieving laugh of someone whose life was slowly turning into something they actually recognized as their own. Over the next few weeks, I painted every evening after work. Landscapes of the park by Aisha's apartment, where I had stood that first night and watched the stray cat trot across the grass. The view from my own apartment window, as the seasons shifted and the trees along the street began to bud. The coffee shop where I went after therapy sessions. Therapy had been Aisha's idea, and Tamara had backed her up until I finally relented. My therapist, Dr. Foster, had a quiet voice and an office that smelled faintly of lavender and old paper. She asked me to tell her why I was there, and I told her the whole story. "That is a lot of loss all at once," she said when I finished. "The baby, the marriage, the family you thought you were part of. How are you coping?" "I am going through the motions," I said. "Working, painting, signing forms. I do not know if I am actually coping." "When do you allow yourself to feel it fully?" she asked. "Never," I admitted. "If I start, I am afraid I will not stop." "You can fall apart here," she said simply. "That is what this space is for." So I did. I cried for the baby I would never hold, for the years I had spent shrinking myself to fit into someone else's life, for the version of me who had believed being a good wife meant enduring whatever came without complaint. When I finally stopped, I felt wrung out and strangely lighter, like I had set down a backpack I had forgotten I was wearing. "Better?" Dr. Foster asked. "A little," I said. "Good," she replied. "Now we can talk about who you want to be on the other side of all this." The art fair was a warm Saturday in early summer. My 6 framed paintings looked small and vulnerable on the borrowed easels, but people stopped. They looked. They asked questions. By noon, 3 paintings had sold. By late afternoon, all 6 were gone, and I had taken contact information for 3 commission requests. "Your work feels honest," a woman in a yellow sundress told me as she studied the painting of the park. "Like you painted what you actually felt, not what you thought you were supposed to feel." "That is exactly what I did," I said. When the fair ended, I packed up my empty easels with $800 in my pocket and a buzz in my veins that had nothing to do with money. People had connected with something I had made. That night, Aisha and Tamara came over with another bottle of champagne and a bag of takeout. We sprawled on my couch, laughing and planning my next pieces. A week later, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Hello," I said. "Hello, Janelle," a woman said. "This is Felicia Grant. I wanted you to know that Calvin was fired today." I blinked. "Fired?" "Yes," she said. "The company finally investigated some complaints about inappropriate relationships and misuse of company resources. Your attorney's subpoenas seem to have triggered a deeper review. They found more than enough. He is gone." For a moment, I did not say anything. I felt a complicated mix of emotions, satisfaction, relief, and something like melancholy. Not for Calvin himself, but for the 5 years I had spent attached to someone I had never truly known. "How do you feel about that?" Felicia asked. "Honestly," I said, "it feels like consequences finally found him. Not because of me, but because he could not hide who he was anymore." "That is what I thought you should know," Felicia said. "Accountability matters." "Thank you," I said. After I hung up, I told Aisha and Tamara. "Good," Aisha said simply. "He needed to be stopped." "I hope he learned something from this," Tamara said. "Even if it is too late for your marriage." I realized then that whether he learned anything or not was no longer my concern. His life had finally diverged completely from mine. Months passed. I went on a solo trip to the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee, something I had always wanted to do and Calvin had never been interested in. I hiked trails alone, listening to the crunch of leaves under my boots and the rush of streams over rocks. At night, I sat on the porch of a small rental cabin with my paints and tried to capture the way the sunset washed the mountains in soft purple and gold. One evening, sitting there with a glass of wine and a half-finished painting in front of me, I realized I was happy. Not happy despite everything, or almost happy if I ignored certain pieces. Just quietly, steadily happy. When I returned to Chicago, there was a message from a small gallery downtown. They had seen my work at the art fair and wanted to include me in a group show in January. 6 local artists, each with a small collection. Opening night, the gallery hummed with conversation and soft music. My section featured 8 paintings. Cityscapes, parks, one piece inspired by the mountain trip, and an abstract portrait where I had tried to paint what healing felt like rather than what my face looked like. Ms. Jean arrived, beaming, with paint still visible on her hands. "You have found your voice," she said, standing in front of the abstract piece. "That is the hardest part. It feels like I am finally painting myself," I said. Nods and compliments blurred together until one man stopped in front of my work and really looked. He took his time with each painting, his brow furrowing thoughtfully, his mouth curved in an appreciative half-smile. After a while, he turned toward me. "Your work is remarkable," he said. I can feel the story even without knowing it. Thank you, I said. I am Isaiah, he started, then stopped and laughed. Sorry, Habit. I am used to introducing myself to my students' parents. I teach art at a high school on the west side. I bring them to shows like this when I can, but I am flying solo tonight. I almost smiled at his slip but did not comment on it. We talked about paints and paper, about what it was like to teach teenagers who were more interested in their phones than in line and color. He asked if he could take photos of my work to show his classes. Of course, I said. We are always looking for local artists to come talk about their work, he said. If you ever feel like speaking to a room full of restless 16-year-olds about why art matters, I would love to have you. Maybe, I said. I will think about it. We exchanged numbers, purely professional. After he walked away, Tamara slipped to my side. He seemed nice, she said. Do not start, I warned with a smile. I am just saying, she replied. You deserve someone who looks at you the way he looked at your paintings. I am not looking for anyone, I said. And that is perfectly fine, Aisha added, appearing on my other side. You do not need anyone to complete you. But staying open to good people is never a bad thing. I realized that they were right in both directions. I did not need anyone. My life was already full, of work I enjoyed, art that mattered to me, family and friends who truly saw me. If love came again someday, it would have to fit into that life, not consume it. A year after the divorce, I moved into a slightly bigger apartment with 2 bedrooms, one of which I turned into a dedicated studio. I hung my paintings on the walls, lined shelves with supplies, and positioned a table by the window to catch the best light. One evening, as I was working on a self-portrait, my first real attempt at painting myself honestly, my phone rang. It was Aisha. I just ran into Brenda at the grocery store, she said. I set my brush down carefully. Oh, she stopped me, Aisha said. She asked about you. Said she has been thinking about reaching out, but is not sure you would want to hear from her. She said she is in therapy now. She said she realizes she treated you badly and that she is sorry. I was silent for a moment. I am glad she is getting help, I said finally. I hope she finds peace. Do you want me to give her your number? Aisha asked. No, I said, the answer clear in my chest. I forgive her, but I do not want her in my life. That is what I told her, Aisha said. That you have moved on and you are doing well. After we hung up, I stood in front of the unfinished self-portrait. In it, I had painted myself with a small, quiet smile. Not the broad, performative grin I used to plaster on in family photos at the Brooks house, but a calm, settled expression. The background was a blend of colors from all the places that had rebuilt me. Soft blues like my bedroom wall, warm hues from the Smoky Mountain sunsets, the gray gold of Chicago sidewalks after rain. I picked up my brush and added a few more strokes around the eyes, deepening the sense of light there. As the image sharpened, I recognized the woman looking back. She was not Calvin's wife. She was not Brenda's daughter-in-law. She was not the woman defined by a loss that had nearly broken her. She was just Janelle Harris. I stepped back and let the painting speak for itself. The life behind that face had been cracked open, burned through, and rebuilt piece by piece. I had lost a child, a marriage, and an entire family I had once thought I wanted to belong to. In their place, I had found something I had not realized I had misplaced along the way, myself. And standing there in my own studio, in my own home, with paint on my hands and a future that finally felt like mine, I knew that was the ending I wanted. Not perfect, not spotless, but honest. And that was enough. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.